Okay, good evening and welcome to our second Career Coaching with Corbett call. I want to thank all of you. It is Sunday. It's not Sunday. I was about to say it was a long holiday weekend. Today is actually Thursday, July the 6th, and I'm really proud of all of you for making tonight's phone call. So by a show of hands, or if you're on the phone, or if you are communicating with me by chat, tell me if you've done one of these before. So Lane, you're a return customer. Grace, you're a return customer. Jennifer, so good to have you again on the call. So I want to welcome Christy and Shamitris. Am I saying your name right? Yay. And April on the phone line. We really appreciate you being here. So let me remind you how Career Coaching with Corbett goes. The next hour is really about all of you. I have a theme for tonight. But we're going to start off with a couple of questions to see how your last month has gone. For some of you, you were with us the last month. So Lane and Grace, I get to hold you accountable for some things that we talked about. So you guys can smile. Don't forget to undo your line. For those of you who are joining us, this is what we'll do. I'm going to actually show you a couple of slides. So in a minute, for those of you who are actually on through the internet, you're going to be able to get the visual. If you want a copy of the slides, Lane, will you unmute your line and tell everybody what they have to do if they want a copy of the slides? Do you remember?
We email you after the session or tomorrow.
Exactly. You email me and my email address is going to appear at the end, and I'm happy to send you all the slides. We are recording. We recorded the first session. Things are just a little slow because of a lot of things going on at the school, getting prepared to go back to Little Hall, but we will be putting all the recordings online, and I will let you guys know when that first recording is up. Any questions? Not yet? Okay, let the record show everybody is shaking their head no. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. You guys really do not want to see all of my emails and my to-do list. Okay. Can you guys see the slideshow that's up there now? It'll take about a minute and you should see that says creating a professional brand. Okay. Grace, can you see that? Grace, can you see it? Okay. All right. So we are going to start off tonight with the first question, and it is, why did you come tonight? I prioritize my intentional growth and join Coach Corbett and my colleagues tonight because. So who wants to go first? Tell me why you, don't forget to unmute your line, and tell me why you came on tonight's call. Hi, Malaya. Can you hear us? Okay. Malaya, am I saying your name right? Malaya's still getting situated. Okay, so Christy, Lane, Grace, Jennifer, April, Demetris, anybody undo your line and tell me why you came tonight.
I want more money.
I want more money. Woohoo! Yes. So one of the things that we were just talking about is, why in the world would you guys participate in all of these coaching sessions a year or 2 years before graduation? And you are absolutely right that preparing for your career growth will help you get ready for that moment when we are negotiating your salary, how to better articulate who you are. So I appreciate the honesty. Somebody else, why are you here tonight? Jennifer, you can type in your answer too.
This is April. I'll go.
Thank you, April.
I was really impressed with orientation. I really liked your presentation, and I like the fact that you've had a varied career from direct service to advocacy. And now I'm interested in learning a little bit more about what the business was you referred to that you run now.
Okay, well, April, I appreciate you asking, and you keep me in check. I'm putting a little note off to the side. And before we hang up tonight, I will tell you a little bit more on how the business came to be, so that all of you have an idea of how you can take your social work background and over time, maybe even create your own company one day. Does that sound like a good plan, April?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I enjoyed having you at orientation. I get to do another one coming up in August. So we'll have more students joining us. Malaya, are you all situated now? Can you hear us okay? Okay, very good. One more. Grace, Jennifer, somebody.
Hey,
Why'd you come back? Thanks for coming back.
I feel like Christy. I want some more money.
All right. I do have good news. I had another student who just graduated in May send me an email yesterday. We talked this morning that she just got an offer for a job. So I think that we're not just going to talk about money. We want to weave in, as we think about the networking, as every contact that you start to make. So some of you, you're going to be looking for employment just shy of another couple of months, since you'll be graduating in May. So part of making that money is, I really want you to start to think about those connections that all of you are making. And as you do your internships, who are you meeting who may be looking to employ social workers, or who may know somebody who is looking to employ social workers? And that's all part of that. That's just another little tip to throw in. When we think about the money, we want to start to think about, well, who's employing social workers? Okay. Is there any topic in particular that anybody wanted me to address tonight, besides that we're going to talk about personal brand? Are we good? We'll go through this? Okay, very good. So accountability check-in. During the last call, we started to talk a little bit about ourselves and our own intentional growth. And for the rest of you who weren't able to be with us in June, that's okay. I just want you to take a moment, and Lane and Grace, and I think there was one more of you who was with us last time, if you would like to share what you decided to start to work on. So the quote, April, that I have up on the screen right now is, develop the right attitude, learn more about your strengths, tap into your passion, become more in touch with your purpose, develop your skills so that you can be all that you can be. Lane, would you like to share something that you've been working on? Thank you.
I've just been working on more self-care right now while we have the opportunity to this summer.
Okay. And Lane, do you want to share with the group from accountability standpoint what you're trying to do for you that works for you?
Was it what we talked about last time?
Yeah. Do you remember the one thing of self-care that would work for you, of what, whether it's running, whether it's taking breaks, whether it's spending some time? I think last time we talked about pet therapy for some of you. Is there something in particular when you think about your self-care that you're trying to work on?
Really just to get out of the house more and with, get out there and connections and, working with other social workers, or just going down and volunteering.
Yeah. So when we start to think about that self-care, it's really 2 points, I think, of what Lane is talking about. One is, when you think about your own accountability and taking care of yourself, how many of you are working part-time or full-time right now and you're in school? April, are you working part-time, full-time?
Yes, I've been working part-time at a local hospital while I finished my bachelor's, and just finished in May and started school like a week later
Yeah,
for my master's. So.
Yeah. So what I want all of you to think about is, what are you going to do for you? And you're saying, well, Coach Corbett, I don't have any time. I understand. But here's what happens when you don't take care of yourself and you're like Coach Corbett. You go on a 2-week business trip. You go 3 different cities. You're supposed to go see the fireworks on Saturday night, and guess what happens at about 7:10 on Saturday night? The cold comes in, the scratchy throat is there, and I had to cancel all of my plans for the rest of the holiday weekend. So if you do not take care of you, what's going to happen, Christy?
Well, first, you can't take care of anyone else, and you'll
Yes.
be sick.
Yeah, you're going to get sick. So I really want you all to start to think about, we're going to take Lane's lead on that intentional growth and say, what are we going to do for us? Even if you only find 15 minutes a week to do something for yourself, particularly now, because you're working, you're going to school. Remember, this is just going to continue once you get your first job. Then you're going to become a manager. Then you're going to become a director. Then you're going to own your own business. And life's going to start all over again, and you have to take care of yourself. So Lane, that's a great tip on intentional growth. Thank you. Does anybody else want to share something they're working on? Something about you, not about school, not about work, not about your children.
Well, I would like to become more confident.
Okay.
Just on different subject matter and be able to speak with confidence, I guess I should say.
Well, Christy, let me compliment you. You just looked into your webcam, so it appeared that you made eye contact with me, and you appear very comfortable and confident on this call. So whatever you're doing, this is what I want you to think about. You're confident, you're comfortable, you're with your colleagues. One of the things that we talked about last time in intentional growth and really increasing our confidence and being comfortable is every opportunity you can. Brittany, if you're, yeah, we got the mute. Thank you. Okay. So anytime you can do anything to practice that confidence, whether it's in a mirror and you're alone, or you have other people in the room watching you talk in the mirror to increase that confidence. If it is a way you can speak out in class, or if you are staffing a case on the job, positive affirmations to yourself that you are good, you know you are good. Anything you can do little by little, I want you to keep doing it. Okay? All right, and you got this webcam thing down pat, Christy, so that you don't need to worry about that confidence. All right, there's that smile. Brittany, we're glad you joined us. Thank you. Okay, so tonight what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about your brand. We're going to discuss with each other what you think your clients say about you when you are not present. And then we're going to start to brainstorm, what do you want your professional brand to be? So the first thing we're going to do is I want to give you a definition of brand. How many of you drink, I don't know, Coca-Cola or Sprite? Everybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, okay, got a few of you. So let me pause a second. Shamitra, since you raised your hand, tell me what you think about Coca-Cola. Just something good or something bad. What do you think about when you think about Coca-Cola?
Well, since I worked at the World of Coca-Cola for a while, I'm
okay. Very good.
They're the best soft drink. They're known everywhere, so
yeah,
I want to be like that.
Okay, so your brand is what people say about you when you're not there. Because I don't even have a Coca-Cola right now. I'm actually drinking a Sprite, right? And so when you talk about something that you like and you talk about your brand, I want you all to think about, well, what do you want your clients to say about you? So in this initial discussion, I want you to answer this question. My classmates or my colleagues, so you can do this for if you're sitting in class or if you're doing the online learning, or your colleagues if you're working, what do they say about you when you're not in the room? See, we just talked about how good that Coca-Cola was, and we're not even at the Coca-Cola Museum, right? We're not in Atlanta right now. So your brand is what people say about Coach Corbett when she's not in the room and you can't hear me or see me. So what do you want, or what have you heard your colleagues, what do they say about you? Anybody? I love this part. This is the years. Okay, I'm ready.
Well, me and my colleagues actually had this discussion recently.
Good
about
for you,
what we
right?
say about each other. That may sound bad. We talk about what we say about each other behind each other's back. And I was complimented that the other psychologists that I have to work with, I have to staff cases all the time, and I have to, throw a lot of workload on everybody. So I always thought, I bet everybody hates when they see me because I'm coming to bring them a new case.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Bringing me more work. Thanks a lot.
Basically. So I had one give me a compliment. She says, when I go to these committee meetings where I have to go over these cases that you staff for me, I say things like, she's really got her files complete. She's on top of things. And I prefer you out of all the other social workers. So my clients, maybe they say something similar since my colleagues like working with me too.
Yeah, excellent. Grace, do you like that brand? Do you like being known as being competent? There we go, Christy. We'll get that word in. Do you like being known as being organized and bringing files that make sense to the people?
I do. I like to know that everyone else can depend on my work being done. They know where to go. And when they're trying to look for something, they're never having to chase me down the hallway. Hey, I can't find this form.
Right.
So no one's having to go over my shoulder, so to speak.
Yeah. And what happens if Grace shows up and she has no paper with her? What do you think would happen? What do you think they'll say about you?
They'll fuss a little bit. I mean, they'll come knock on my door, or not, the other social workers, if the psychologist is like, I can't find this form, and they'll go and they'll say, I cannot believe so-and-so, they didn't get their file complete. And they'll go knock on their door and go, this isn't in there. Where is it? I gotta have it,
Yeah.
So you get kind of scolded.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel too good. So what I want you to think about in your brand is, if that's how you want to be known, what is it you will need to continue to do over and over and over again? And that's where that consistency comes in. I also want everybody to note what Grace said. She actually had this dialogue with her colleagues. So for some of you, I'm going to challenge you, and you're going, oh, Miss Corbett, I don't really want to do that. But, take a colleague that you know, like, and trust, and say, what is my brand? How am I known around here? Or a classmate that you might be in class with. I think most of you are probably online learning, so that may not apply. But particularly, when we do these sessions, you can say, do I look like I'm listening? Does it look like I'm taking notes like Malaya's doing right now? What is it that we want that brand to be with that? Malaya, am I saying your name correctly? You've got to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Malia.
Malia, okay, thank you very much. And while I have you, because I'm going to ask you a question of what you think your classmates and your colleagues say about you, will you also tell me what city and state you're calling from?
Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile, Alabama. And when are you going to graduate?
May 2019.
May 2019. Okay. And Shamitris is also graduating in May of 2019. So you guys are in the same class, so you know. And so is Christy as well. So Malia, I said it right that time? Yay.
Yeah.
What do you think your colleagues say about you? Or what would you like for them to say about you?
Well, I just started a new job, so I don't really know yet what they would say about me. Today I did have my supervisors talking, and they were saying that I caught on fast, which is, good, but I don't really think that's a brand quite yet. But, eventually, hopefully, they'll say that I'm competent and that I'm willing to go the extra mile. I don't just do the bare minimum.
Okay. Excellent. So I want you to really think about that because you just started a new job. So this is perfect, right? It's perfect timing.
Right.
And so think about particularly going the extra mile. And you don't have to answer this now, I just want you to start to think about it. How would somebody describe that? So if I'm a colleague of yours and, you always walk out at 4:31 because your organization closes at 4:30. Do you think you will be known as going the extra mile if you always say goodbye and you just leave at that last second? Probably not. So I want you to start to think about, what does going that extra mile mean? Does that mean every single time you have to stay until 6 o'clock? Not necessarily, but it probably means that you're willing to step up. Somebody needs some assistance. What do you do to do that extra task, if you will? Okay, so that's a great vision to have. I like it. Anybody else? April, Lane, Brittany? What would you like your classmates, your colleagues, what do they say about you? Or what would you like for them to say about you?
I'll go.
Okay.
I was actually talking to a colleague about this, I want to say last week. And I'm one of the first ones to help pitch in if I have to. My boss always comes to me if he wants someone to stay late, because normally I will. I'm eager to learn. I do submissions with insurance, so I'm always eager to learn a different line to help him work out if he needs the extra help.
Excellent. So what I want you to think about is when you think about that phrase, eager to learn, and I want my brand to be, I'm eager to learn, then how does that get translated, right? How would somebody describe you're eager to learn? So part of what you're doing as you're thinking about the brand is you're thinking about what is it I want to be known for? So Christy, if you want to be known as competent, then we want to go a little bit deeper than that. Well, what do we want people to say? If I want my brand to be that every time we do career coaching with Corbett, I am fully focused, I'm listening to all of you. Do you think I want my brand to be that we're interactive? Yes. Do you think I want my brand to be that I don't forget about Jennifer and I check on the group chat and see if she tells me hello again? April, do you want my brand to be, even though if I can't see you, I have written down a note that says 415 equals April? Yes. All of that is on purpose. That's a strategic decision on what I want to communicate or how I want to be known to all of you. So that's where I want you to start to hear about your brand. So let's talk about your clients a second. What do you want your clients to say about you at the end of your internships? I know all of you are working, but let's just talk about your internship that you're all going to have before you graduate. What would you like your clients to say about you?
I'll go.
Okay.
That I'm dedicated, a good listener, a problem solver, and passionate about what I do and them.
And April, this is you talking, right? I got the right person. Okay. We just had somebody else join us on the line, so I just want to make sure I'm talking to the right person. And April, just take one of those that you just talked about. How would a client describe it? We can give an example without mentioning a client's name, but how would a client say that to you? How do you want to hear it from the client?
I know I can depend on you.
Okay. And when I say to you, I'm one of your clients, April, Miss April, I can depend on you. What did you do for me to depend on you? What kind of client are you serving? Is this somebody you have to be timely with? Is this somebody you have to get to an appointment? What would it mean to the client to be dependable?
I was just thinking about my hospice placement recently, and clients would mention something, and I would take the initiative to both help find solutions or bring them options.
Okay.
And
So
they wouldn't even ask. I would listen to them, and then I would be proactive on their behalf.
okay. So I'm hearing another word in your brand. It's not just dependable that you're going to be on time, you're going to get them the information. I'm also hearing from that example that being proactive may be important to you.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So part of what I'm doing that I want all of you to hear is, yep, it's great when you give me a word. I want to be dependable. I want to be competent. I want to be proactive. I want you to then visualize the client thanking you. Because remember, we're in a business that 9 times out of 10 is the client going to be able to thank you? Probably not. So that's part of where it comes from internal. It may come from a mentor who thanks you on the client's behalf. So when you think about your brand, what do you literally want the client to say to me? So I'll give you an example. I want you guys to call me back in a year or two and say, Miss Corbett, I was comfortable negotiating my salary and I'm going to work for ABC Place. You ready for this figure, Christy? For $60,000. So that's what I want to hear, right? I want to hear that I helped you get to the skill, but I also want to hear that outcome. Okay. Now, I don't get those phone calls from you guys often, not just on the 60,000. Sometimes we get to talk about 75,000, and sometimes we're talking about 35,000. But what I want you to start to think about your brand is specifically Grace, Lane, Christy, Malia, DeShayla, we're glad that you joined us. So you can unmute your line if you want to tell us what you want your brand to be. Jennifer, if you want to type it, you can type it. What do you specifically want your clients to say at the end of your internship? Anybody else want to go for a statement? Dream big.
I'll go.
Thanks, Grace.
I want to hear that I was the best social worker that they've ever met.
Ah, I like it. So you want a little competition.
Yeah.
Okay. Best social worker they ever met. And how do you do that? In the setting where you're going to do your internship, how are you going to be the best social worker they ever had? What are you going to have to do every day in and day out?
I'm going to have to do what I say I'm going to do. If I say I'm going to call you Tuesday at 10 a.m., I'm going to call you Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
If I say I'm going to get this information for you and have it by the next time we meet, I'm going to have it ready.
Yeah. And I like what you said about being clear and specific with the clients as well. So when we think about somebody saying that I'm the best social worker that they've ever had, being clear and specific that you're going to give them dates, timelines. If you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. If you choose to hold your clients accountable and you say, I'm going to follow up with you to make sure that you got on the bus, little Danny, and went to school today, then you want to make sure that you're credible every single time, Grace. It's a great vision. I like it. Somebody else. This is the hard part. This is when you're really thinking about what you want your brand to be.
I would like mine more to be in the area of me teaching other social workers.
Okay.
And just because I've often been told with friends and study groups that I help them to understand a subject.
Okay. And Lane, when you think about that opportunity to teach other social workers, are you in position at work? Do you do any kind of graduate assistant work for the school? What environment will you be putting yourself in that you will be able to teach social workers into the future?
I don't know yet. I'm not currently working. I'm a full-time student right now.
Good for you. Can we trade places? Yeah. So when you think about that brand, what I want you to start to think about is if you want to put yourself in position to teach one day other social workers, then what's that going to look like? You know, is there an extra book or is there a course that you can choose from that may talk about supervision? Do you have opportunities to network and do some volunteer work like we were talking about earlier, where you start to meet and interact with other people? And then start to say, hey, I learned this in class. So when you think about your brand, it's not just a vision of what we're going to want a year or two when you graduate. I want you to start thinking about it. How can you practice it now? Right? Lane, are there places that you go that you can think about you would have an opportunity to share some education of what you're learning in school?
Not right now, not where I'm at.
Okay. So part of what I'm going to challenge you to do is when you get that internship, that we come back and we identify where are those conversations that you can start to have with colleagues when you get into your internship.
Okay.
Okay, good. Brittany, DeShayla, Jennifer, you haven't typed anything yet. Christy. Hey, I get to hear Brittany's voice. Yay. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, sorry, I'm at home with my kids by myself, so I had to lock myself in my room.
Not a problem, and just make sure that the kids are still safe, and I understand if I see them.
Yes, that's what's going on.
Okay.
So I currently stay home with them right now, but the community I want to work with are human trafficking victims.
Yes.
So I think the biggest thing I could possibly hear from them is you didn't give up. That's what I really.
Brittany, I think that's critical when we think about the clientele that you may want to work with, and for many of you, the clientele that some of you will work with initially. They need to know you're sticking, right?
Right.
And that you care about them and that you're there. I'm going to say this also related to your brand. Be very careful as you grow your career. And you're saying, Miss Corbett, I don't even have a full-time job yet. I get it, but I'm visioning out for the future. If you know that you could be in transition, you're going to get a promotion and you're going to start running the place. Or you could be in transition and you're going to go work somewhere else. Try not to make promises that you may not be able to keep with your clients. Does that make sense?
It
Because
does.
that becomes your brand, and for the rest of you, that's a huge brand issue. So yes, you don't want to give up, but I want you to also be open and honest. Don't promise a client you're going to be there in a year. You may not be able to make that promise, but you can promise them, like Grace said, I will be there tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I will call you tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Right.
That makes sense?
It does.
Brittany, while I hear your voice, can you tell me your last name so that I can take proper role for Dr. Jackson, the MSW chair, and can you tell me where you're calling and when you graduate?
Yes, my last name is Warren, and I graduate May 2019, and I'm calling from Montgomery.
Okay, May 2019, Montgomery, Alabama. Got it. Okay, thank you, Brittany. All right, thanks for speaking. All right, be nice to those children. They need their mama. Anybody else? Christy.
I would like for my clients, I work now with teenage boys.
I'm sorry. I'm just teasing.
Better than the females. I would take boys over girls.
You know what? Every time you guys talk about what populations you want to work with, I always say, I'm sorry. I always say that's a hard population. This is why you need self-care, and part of self-care is a little humor. You guys are all working with some pretty tough populations, so thank you for what you do. All right, so we're with teenage boys right now.
Yes, and I would like for them to say that I listen. A lot of times they have a lot of attention-seeking behaviors, and they don't get that one-on-one, so I would like to provide that.
And Christy, what does listening look like to a teenage boy? Is this, if you have a cell phone device, is that listening to a teenage boy? Is it you know, reading your latest social work research book? What do you think listening looks like for them? Kind of holding up that mirror.
Putting everything aside and getting to a comfortable position, be it during lunchtime or snack time, just taking time to set aside for them specifically without any distractions.
Yeah. Is that hard to do depending on the environment where you are? Is it a school setting, or do you have other things going on that they need to know that they have your undivided attention and you're listening?
It's a therapeutic group home, and fortunately right now it's not packed to capacity. We only have 4. So it's easier now, but when more come in, it makes it more difficult.
Yeah. And when you have that volume, do you try to tell the other boys, I'm going to focus on, I'm making up the names right now, I think all of you know this, I'm going to focus on Mark today, or I'm going to focus on David? Or do you say, I'm going to give Mark 5 minutes, and David, I'll be with you in 5 minutes? Are there any of those prompters that help when you're working with them?
Well, sometimes I like to kind of just sneak them off without announcing it.
Okay. Yes.
Won't know, so I tend to take that approach.
Okay, very good. And so when I want you to think about those teenage boys, I'm curious, are they good with the eye contact, or are you better off walking with them so they're talking to you and you're kind of walking alongside of each other?
Alongside, sometimes even playing the video game, although it's not their full attention, it's just in their environment and in that space that they're comfortable in.
Yeah. Hold on to that, Christy. I want you to, this is what we talk about when you guys are writing all of your papers on the strengths-based perspective and the person and environment. You just said exactly what we're talking about with your brand. Take the client where the client is. Those of you who are working with teenage girls, same thing. They cannot stand the eye contact. Is anybody transporting clients anywhere, teenagers, or any of you in positions that you have to drive your car? If you are, or Brittany, you mentioned you have children. I don't know the age of your children. Any of you, when you raise or if you raise teenage children, I don't understand it, but you can be driving the car and your teenage girls in the back seat will tell you everything. So it's just a little tip about motherhood I learned. Some of you know this, or you did it with your own mom or your own dad. Anything you can do that you give them their undivided attention. Christy, I love the brand. Just remember, though, they need to not look at you because they're kids. And they'll tell you anything in that car. Just run carpool is my advice. Run carpool and know the names of their friends. Know the names of their friends. You'll be surprised the reaction that you'll get from your clients or your teenage kids. Hey, Jennifer, that one was for you. That was real advice. I don't know if I'm a pro. I just know that I have experience. Jennifer just wrote, let me read what she said. She'd like to be a lobbyist known for never stopping until I effectively improve policies pertaining to social justice and human rights and involving children and their families. And yes, and then Jennifer commented that it does work for her 5-year-old. I'm assuming she's talking about driving in the car. It is amazing. The kids will babble anywhere if they don't have to learn how to make that eye contact quite yet. They're not working on their social work degree yet, so we'll worry about that eye contact later. Jennifer, thank you for sharing that lobbyist standpoint and improving policies. So part of what I want you to think about in your brand, and I'm going to use Jennifer's example that she typed in, is once you decide what you want that overall brand to be, I want you to see if you can figure out a way to measure it. And so what that means is, are you going to ask your colleagues? Do you get client satisfaction feedback that overall that the agency can know how Grace and her team are doing? If you're working on a policy, Jennifer, as you know, sometimes it takes a long time before a policy goes through. So you've got to clearly define what that brand is going to be. Is the brand going to be education about the policy and how many people you're going to teach about the policy? It may or may not be legislation that's passed, but it's how many people you're getting in front of. April, when you gave the example about being dependable and we talked about being proactive, how can you measure that? I mean, how do we know that I'm being effective with all of you career coaching? Well, anecdotally, you tell me. Some of you actually call and you talk to the dean about it, or you go to donuts with the dean if you're on campus. We will do an evaluation. You guys know that we had that evaluation at the end of orientation. So just want you to start to think about who's going to keep you accountable for your brand. You can ask a mentor, you can ask a supervisor, but how are you going to measure that success? Does anybody have one more to add? How do you want to be known? This is the hard part. DeShayla, we haven't heard your voice yet. Do you want to add anything yet? You'll have to unmute your line. There you go. You get to hear DeShayla's voice. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I want to be known for implementing the most effective policies and services to all of my clients.
And how are you going to do that?
A lot of research and networking.
Yeah, absolutely. And DeShayla, we're having a little bit of feedback, so I apologize. Can you just tell me your last name, city and state, and when you're graduating?
Hunt, DeShayla Hunt, Jackson, Alabama. I graduate in 2019.
May of 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
I keep hearing the echo. Okay. DeShayla, thank you. And I want you to stay focused on when you think about those effective services, when would you do that research? How long would you do the research? So part of the brand is it's constant. It's ongoing. You're always thinking about your brand and how you want to be known. So Christy, if you end up with a really bad week and you ignore all those teenage boys, what do you think is going to happen with your brand?
they talk, and
Yeah.
that will decrease it. So
Yeah, it's a great example. And do you think it's just teenage boys, or Lane, as you're thinking about adults and you're thinking about wanting to teach other other social workers and colleagues? Same thing. If you just show up and you're in a bad mood for 20 days in a row, what do you guys think your brand's going to be known for? Shamitris, you're wearing it all over your face. Unmute your line. What happens if you show up and you guys are negative 20 days in a row with your colleagues?
No one's gonna like you.
Yeah, nobody's gonna like you. Thank you. So April, this is where I think this is a good time where I can weave in the brand and owning your own business, and how does it end up evolving. So let me give you guys a couple of tips that I really defined that were part of my brand as I was growing my career in social work that eventually led to me owning my own business. The biggest tip that I can give all of you starting today is take the assignments that nobody else wants to take. And this is a hard one because you're going, well, Becky, I don't want to work on the budget. Becky, I don't want to learn about money. I understand, but if you want to own your own business one day, or if you want to start your own nonprofit, or if you want to go after a big funder for your organization one day, you're going to have to know the budget and the finances. So when I was a little case manager, and I wasn't necessarily little, but I was 22 years old. I was working for Indian Rivers Mental Health Center, and they needed some assistance with the overall case management budget. There were 20 case managers. Guess how many of us volunteered? Anybody want to guess? Yeah, actually 2. So me and one other person. Now, interesting enough, we both went on in management at Indian Rivers. So that's that first tip when you think about your brand. Do something that's going to set you apart. Try something new. Be the one to be the go-getter. I think a couple of you mentioned you want to go the extra mile, were those words that we were talking about. One of you mentioned that, Shamitris, it might have been you, that when your supervisor, your boss asks you to stay, you're willing to stay. Whatever piece of that brand's going to be for you. For me, it was the business of social work. For me, it was that I was willing to learn about the budget, or I offered to help writing a grant. And you're going, Becky, I don't want to write a grant. I want to be in clinical services. Great. But sometimes you can be on the team to write the grant that can help you deliver more services. So when you think about going that extra mile, you don't have to do the whole thing. Is there just one little piece that you can try in that extra step? April, does that resonate with you?
Oh, absolutely. I've heard that when I attended the School Social Worker for Georgia convention.
Yes.
Not convention, but I'm sorry, their biannual meeting.
Yes.
And they were speaking of the same thing, and they were sharing resources as well. Grant writing was a big part of why they showed up to the meetings.
Yeah, yeah.
And so doing those things that aren't necessarily in our comfort zone is actually what set them apart and why they were leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you mentioning comfort zone. When you think about your brand, we talk about taking risk. So I want you to think about this. All of you have served a client in some capacity to date, whether you've had some volunteer work or whether you've been gainfully employed, either in undergrad or currently now, or in your internships. When you think about what you ask your clients to do, are you asking them to take a risk and be outside of their comfort zone? Yeah. Let the record show everybody's shaking their head, and those who aren't, I'm shaking my head double for all of you, okay? So when you think about the risk and you think about the challenge, that's what sets you apart in your brand. We're asking our clients to do that every day, but for your own career and your own growth and your own brand, are you modeling that for your clients or for your children or for your niece or your nephew? So I want you to think about, that's the second tip. The first one is, I want you to do something that other people aren't. Grace, that's how you are going to be known as the best social worker, is that you're going to be willing to try something and to take it on. Then the second thing I want you to do is to really think about you're a role model for your clients. You're asking your clients to make a lot of change. You're there to help them. You may be trying to help them out of a certain environment. You might be helping them to stay clean and sober. Jennifer, where you're working on bills to be passed and looking at trying to change policy and change how we treat people in the world and in the country. And so when you think about that risk, if you're going to ask your clients to take a risk, I want you to think about how you're going to be a role model to take that risk. And April, you basically asked the question and you answered it at the same time. Part of me taking a risk in my career was I moved to Washington, D.C. I went to work for my professional organization. So I went outside of my comfort zone. 10 years after working in community mental health, my family relocated to DC, and then I went to work for our professional organization in training. It was a huge risk. I was used to running a nonprofit, a mental health center, but I also wanted to be an educator. Lane, sound familiar? So I took a risk 10 years later, and I still use my social work skills, but I started training social workers in continuing education. And after then working in a different environment for our membership organization, I then really understood what it took to run a nonprofit. So I didn't just run social work programs, I literally ran human resources, IT, accounting. And you say, well, Ms. Corbett, you didn't go to school for any of that. Well, actually I did, because at the time, Alabama had a concentration in planning and management. So I literally took classes on human resources development. I had classes on budget management. I wish we still had all those classes at Alabama. But you know, you can get those skill sets by taking the risk and taking that challenge at your internships and asking to be involved in some of those areas. April, did that help answer your question on a little bit about how I've gotten to where I am?
Absolutely, and you inspired me. I actually applied and got accepted to the DC internship program, so I'll be there in the spring.
Excellent. Is anybody else on the call going to be in DC? Congratulations, April. Any of the rest of you going to DC? Okay, nobody on this call, April, but you'll be meeting your colleagues, and I will either be seeing you guys online. If I'm in DC, Ms. Phelps always tries to have me in person. So I'm excited you'll be in DC.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to, I hope we get to go to the NASW headquarters as well and get to meet people there.
You will. You should be meeting there. So you'll be there probably about 6 times. So you'll get to see it. Excellent. So brand management. Let me go back to my slides real quick and see what I missed. Let me ask if anybody has any other questions as they are thinking about their brand. Can anybody tell me something profound about their brand that they're going to start? You guys know the routine. I need to hear from at least 3 of you. Something you heard tonight about your brand that you're going to do.
I'll visualize more. I noticed that visualize what we want the client to say about us. So I'll use that in my approach as well.
Yeah. And Christy, when you visualize, is there a place that you actually reflect? Do you have a place where you go and think? Do you write it down? Well, how do you translate to get to that visualization?
I usually get to work maybe about 30 minutes prior to my shift starting. So I close the door to my office and I think about the day from there.
Excellent. And we know if we visualize success. So I want you guys to visualize you're going to graduate. I want you to visualize you're going to get through all of your papers. I want you to visualize the one class you don't want to take, you're going to pass it. It's all going to be fine. So part of that positive imagery, Christy well said, is that we actually visualize where we want to go. And we visualize that we hear that client talking about Miss Christie in the hallway. Man, she really listened to me. Yeah. I'm just looking to see what Jennifer wrote. Oh, Jennifer's going to be in DC as well. So you know, April. She just wrote on the group chat. 2 more.
Oh, great, thank you.
Yeah. 2 more. Anybody? What did you learn about brand? What are you thinking about? What are you going to implement for yourself?
Okay.
I'm ready.
I was talking. Am I the only one on? Oh, you
Yeah.
can go, Malia.
Malia, you go first. We're used to Grace talking. Let's hear from Malia. Yay, Grace.
I was just going to say that it is just the thinking about, with everything you do, thinking about how it reflects on your brand. I think that would just greatly change how, I mean, we do every little thing down to the tiniest detail. You know, if you think about, okay, well, you know, if I take an extra 30 minutes for lunch day, how's that going to look?
Yes.
Yeah, things like that. Just things you wouldn't normally think about. If you just have that mindset all the time, I think it would really affect just the overall.
Yeah, and I do want to add, I think you guys know that I do intentional growth and leadership for a living. So not only do I get the pleasure of spending time with you guys as students, I love working with you guys because you're students. You're starting your career. The hardest part is to work on somebody's brand that has had a career for 30 years, and they literally are walking into their office with their head down. These are CEOs. And they do not say hello, and they don't learn the name of the individuals. Can you imagine what their staff think about them? Or people who are saying that their families are aggravated at home. Well, they're aggravated because they get home in the evening and they forget to smile and say, hi, how was your day, honey? And they just start complaining about the entire day. So I appreciate that reflection. It's the little things, right? Most of you have heard me talk about my daughter, Liz. She's 21 years of age. She's a senior in college, which is hard to believe. That makes, Miss Becky feel really old when I say that. But my brand with my daughter is, if she was to text me right now, would I ignore her? Yes. If it was a 911 and she comes first, would I say to all of you, I need to pause for 1 minute. There's an emergency with Liz. And all of you would know exactly what I'm doing. Now, with my daughter, my brand with her is, Mommy will call you back, I'm teaching. And she'll say, teach well. So when you think about those interactions, I want you to think about all of them, from your children to your significant other, to your church or your temple communities. Just what are you doing that portrays you? Because I guarantee you, whatever you're doing at home is probably bleeding into the workforce. So well said. It's every little thing. Now, you're going to have a bad day. You can be grumpy for a few seconds at work, but I want you to think about what's your brand. Are you going to be known as the person who walks in and smiles and says hello to everybody like I do? Or are you going to be the person that's going to be grumpy and you're going to start your career off that way? I don't think you guys want to be grumpy. Nah, I don't recommend it. Okay, 1 more. 1 more, come on, and I'll let you go. I'm gonna make a couple announcements and I'll let you go. All right, great. Brittany's gonna speak. All right, go for it.
Grace can go, that's fine.
No, go Brittany, go ahead.
I just really took to heart. Hold on, I gotta shut my door one more time.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, we appreciate you juggling parenthood and getting a degree. Hats off to you.
It's not easy. So I really took to heart the fact that you were saying to do the extra things and stuff. And I have a background in grant writing for a nonprofit. So I never thought to put those two things together, that I could use, my past, because I come from a communications background.
Yes.
Be able to work harder and be seen and do more, basically. So that's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye out, is what else can I do that's not expected of me.
Excellent. And Brittany, you brought up an excellent point. All of you, she's fine. You can meet her line. Just tell her Aunt Becky said hi. I love it. Okay. So I want all of you to think about your backgrounds. And I want you to think about what are the other skill sets that you bring, because when we build your resume, we're not going to lose who you were just because you got your MSW degree. So Brittany, we want to take that communication background and we want to build on who you are, so that when we start to work on your interviewing skills early, we're not going to work on them the week you need a job. We're going to start working on them in another couple of months. And so when we think about that, how do you take those skills and how do you continue to use those skills even with your MSW? Well said, Brittany. I like it. All right, so everybody needs to unmute their line because this is the funnest part. This is when I make you repeat my famous line so we know how to get money. For those of you who are not on the screen, the last sentence says never, ever, ever accept the first offer. Okay, is everybody ready? You know you have to say it loud 3 times. You ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. I'm taking your picture too.
Never,
ever accept the first offer.
That was horrible.
All right, do it again. Do it again.
never, ever, ever.
Ever accept the first offer.
You guys are horrible. Okay, one more time. One more.
Never,
Ever
accept the first offer. Close enough.
Okay, we definitely need to compare this to last month's, because I don't know, Lane, Grace, I think we did it better last month, but okay, I'll take what I can get. All right, a couple of friendly reminders. We are meeting on Tuesday, August the 1st, same time, same Zoom, same thing. For those of you who don't know, we moved the Career Services webpage, and so this is the URL. So if you need the URL, if you can't find it under Student Services, all you got to do is send me an email, and there is my email address. You can take a picture with your telephone, and you will send me an email. I'm sorry, I heard the dog in the background. I lost my train of thought. Okay, if you'll send me an email and you'll let me know that you were here tonight. I think I got everybody. DeShayla, if you will send me an email with your email address, and Brittany, if you will do the same thing, just send me an email with your email address. That would be great. This is how you guys can find me. I do want to let you know that you can send me, general emails. Sometimes you have questions about career development. I just want to let you know that I primarily check the email account on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you do anything in between, I always check on Tuesday and Thursdays. And that's how you can find me and track some other leadership information outside of the school. Does anybody have any other question for tonight?
What is your email? For those that are on the phone call?
I don't know it by heart. Hold on, I got to pull it back up. Sorry about that. I forgot about you guys on the telephone line. Okay, it's Becky Corbett, all one word. So it's BECKY COR, B as in Becky, ETT, and it's at sw.ua.edu.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry that thank you for reminding me. I forgot to say it out loud for those of you on the call. Does anybody have any questions? And did we, April, did I answer the question good enough for tonight and weave that into Brand?
Yes, very much. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Okay, you guys know if anybody has an individual question that you need to ask me, I'll be the last one to hang up the call tonight. If not, I really appreciate all of you taking time. These sessions are really about you. I am here for you. You're doing an amazing job. Really be proud of yourself that you're starting this process now. You will be very glad when you get to graduation that you have spent this amount of time really focusing on your career development throughout your studies. So well done. Okay, everybody wave goodbye or
Thank
say
you.
goodbye. All right, I'll be on the call if anybody
Bye.
has any other last minute questions. Take care. Bye, Jennifer. Thank you.